Hello, everybody. We're here with my good friend Todd Porter, and he's also a fellow Kickstartian, right? You've got one going on right now, and man, it looks badass. What is this?
This is NecroVirus here. This is what we're actually kickstarting. NecroVirus is a fully 3D printed board game.
Wow.
So everything you see here is available on our Kickstarter. You can actually get all this plastic plus the pieces, which are, well, I'll show you the pieces later, but all of this for $250 backer level.
Right.
And then
and this usually costs. I mean, if I'm a board gamer, this is like $500 or $600 usually, or this piece alone would be $150.
Yeah, I mean that's typically what you see in a lot of these things that you're trying to buy. And you know, when we looked at the technology, we wanted to actually create something that allowed us as gamers to not only be able to bring the cost of the pieces down, but actually create our own pieces, be creative.
Oh, wow, cool.
And so, you know, what's cool about this is that we have these Secure Connect boards, and the boards themselves, when you plug the bases in, the actual buildings keep the board so that you can actually move the entire board together.
Look at that.
So you don't have to, when you're rolling, if you have people with big hands, they're not, you know, ruining the game session.
Right. And the old Risk game we used to play where you roll the dice across
Yeah,
and armies would go flying, I guess.
Exactly. Well, you can still knock the zombies over, but
Right.
this helps a significant amount. But also the game, you configure the game before you play, and the missions tell you how to configure the map. So it really is very interactive. The gameplay is very fast-paced. We've had a really good, at every show we've been at this year, we've had people waiting in line to play the game. So we're very pleased with that. So this is NecroVirus, and then over here, we're going to be announcing this week.
Well, you're kind of announcing it right now.
Yeah, exactly, right? So this is our Boardcraft Fantasy Dungeon series, and this is also all 3D printed. This is 15 millimeter, and this is 28 millimeter heroic scale.
On.
So you can see we've got some Dungeons & Dragons pieces in here. This is for use in a fantasy role-playing environment. You know, I'm not going to obviously say it's just for Dungeons and Dragons.
No. But you know, the point is you can use it for that.
You can use it for any of your fantasy role playing. Is all I think my attorneys are allowed.
Well, yeah. But they're not watching the show anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But what's neat about this is we had a lot of requests at the shows for, hey, do you have anything for 28 millimeter? And we're like, well, yeah, we do. But we're every week we're announcing new things. What's cool about both of these is that if you put in as little as $50, you'll get the digital models for everything we announced during the Kickstarter.
So you could 3D
campaign.
print your own pieces.
Yeah, and people say, well, 3D printing, is it really costly? Is it really expensive? But you take an average piece. I mean, the cathedral is about $3.50 to print.
And that's amazing. And these people are selling $150 and.
Well, the fact is that in the traditional business environment, you have to create a mold. Molds are expensive.
Right. Oh, that's right. True.
So what 3D printing gives us is a non-mold solution to print out these massive objects. In fact, we have a version of this that is actually 28 millimeter, and the cathedral itself is about this big. So,
wow.
And it's also full color 3D printed. We didn't offer it because when we started looking at shipping costs, it's sandstone, it's heavy as hell. It would have cost us a fortune to ship it. So we decided against that. But every week on the Kickstarter, our backers should be looking because every single week we're going to be introducing new sets. And I can tell you there's going to be an introduction a week from now of another new set. Of course, if you're in at the $50 pledge level, you'll get the digital models for everything because that's really the point of Boardcraft. So NecroVirus.
So Boardcraft's a little different. This is the game, the two games printed with Boardcraft. What is Boardcraft?
So Boardcraft is really what we're kickstarting for.
Right,
so
okay.
It's a collection of tools that I built over the years. It's called Toy Chest in-house, but Boardcraft is going to be a tool that allows consumers to drag and drop and create their own board games. They can literally choose a genre and they can say, okay, I'm going to mix Civil War with zombies.
Wow.
And they just drag the pieces over and then they say print, and Boardcraft handles either printing to their printer with the proper profiles and everything set up, or it can print to one of our services, and it's an ecosystem.
That makes sense.
And also, if you're an artist, we'll create a store on our site and people can buy pieces from you.
See, that's a big deal. That's a big deal here too, is community involvement. So you're looking to build the community, empower them, and let them grow your product or grow all your products together at the same time.
Yeah,
that's unique.
And then so what we're doing with this is that we are going to every week introduce new genres to the ecosystem, because kind of kickstart the give it a push that hey, look, we literally are going to, and the genre is going to be completely different.
Right. So these guys, the first week was zombies, right? So this is zombie apocalypse, and then now we're going into fantasy. Right, and then you'll announce later what the other ones will be too.
And
there's a lot of people that play these things, but play different genres.
Yeah, and so what we've done is we've taken the top 6 genres that are played by tabletop gamers.
Right.
And we've said we're going to make product for that, because even at the show at QuakeCon, there's people who are still doing Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder in the old-fashioned way with a felt pen.
Wow, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we have interior tiles, but we also have exterior buildings and streams and hollows and rivers.
Right.
And the old idea is, once the ecosystem gets big enough, people will be able to say, hey, you bring over your terrain, I'll bring over my rivers, he'll bring over his dungeons, you bring over the medieval town, and we can create this massive board, because these Secure Connect boards, you can just keep adding to them.
Right.
And we've made them so they print fast, they're not expensive to produce, so on a filament cost level, it's pennies.
Right.
I mean, again, you take a look at a dungeon wall that we have here. The dungeon walls for us cost about, I think they're 8 or 9 cents. So they're very inexpensive. It's a time thing, So you spend like this. It takes about 9.5 hours to do. Well, that would be a problem if you had to sit there and watch it, but you don't. What we do is you set it up for printing at 10 o'clock at night, and when you get up for your coffee at 7 in the morning, the model's finished.
That's nice.
And by the way, we're at the early stages. They just are introducing speed ups every day. Like the printer we printed this on at 9.5 hours is 100 millimeters per second printer. Well, they just introduced a 300 millimeters per second printer, which means it's 3 times faster, which means now this is 3 hours.
Amazing.
So we know, and then full color plastics are coming.
Right.
So what we want to do, though, is give the gamers an operating system in which all their stuff works together and plugs together, in anticipation of this massive shift once printers really hit that kind of mass market level.
The cool thing for me is, like everybody, I grew up playing D&D, and I think you and I probably played D&D back in the day together. Yeah. And so, but it was always like on graph paper or those kind of things. And this right here, literally, you could game master this thing up and create scenarios, and then you could hide it, cover it up and explore it as you go. This is pretty stinking amazing stuff.
Yeah, and we've got, like I was saying,
got to be some World War II tanks coming at some point, I imagine.
Well, I'm telling you, we've got a lot of genres that we're working on right now that will be released, like I said, every week.
Right.
But I think the key thing is that the immersive ability of gaming like this is like nothing else, and we see that when people play this. They play NecroVirus at our conventions. We have them. Literally, we get there at 10 o'clock, and there's been a line forming. And I think what happens is people are you don't know what it's like until you have to look around things. You
got line of sight. You got all kinds of.
You don't know where the zombies are. It's kind of ramps up the scariness.
You've got some pieces here too, right? I want to bring the pieces in. I want the mission. People should see the mission.
I don't know where we get the mission thing.
The mission.
Yeah.
It's not in here?
But I'll find it.
Okay, that's all right.
But I may be outside. So,
it's the kind of show we
have. So this is, these are the pieces, and again, everything but except for the cards are 3D printed. So all the little chits that you use in the game, instead of using cardboard chits, we 3D print them.
He said chits.
Yeah, chits. C-H-I-T-S. Chits, yeah.
Don't want to get the chits.
But we've even 3D printed the characters, and what we were amazed by is even on a 100-micron printer, which is a mass market consumer printer.
That thing, man.
Yeah, and if you look at you have a guy here with 2 guns. I mean, you can actually see the detail.
That's nice.
Even though this is printed, so and this is, you can imagine a 20-micron printer is 5 times more the resolution. So all of this can be printed. We do some fun things like our turn button is 3D printed. And you can basically play the game from the turn button. So there's just a lot to this. For the $250, you get this entire set. You get the cards, you get the rules, you get everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good deal. Now, you're on Kickstarter right now, right?
Yes, we're on Kickstarter.
Mike, in his ever-present wisdom, will put up the Kickstarter thing right in here, right, Mike? A link to that. And yes, there it goes. I'm assuming it's already there. We can't see it because we're not that.
I think that it's a hard thing for people to get their mind around. And people always ask me, well, why did you Kickstarter for a board game for an engine. And I said, well, because if I went out and Kickstarted for a tool, and I said to you, oh, it's going to build this great thing, you'd have gone, well, I'm going to Kickstart to put all this money in, then maybe you're going to make a tool that will create something.
Yeah.
So I said, we need to create the thing first, and then build the tool. And that's what we did.
And you did, and it's pretty amazing. And you've thoroughly play tested this. You've had lots of play sessions.
We have had, well, the game's been in development for almost a year and 3/4. So, and our developers are guys who've been building games for 50 years. When I say 50 years, I mean literally 50 years.
Wow. They
used to game with Gygax and Arnson. So these guys go way back. They're gray-haired 65-year-old men who just know everything about tabletop gaming. And that's one of the reasons I think NecroVirus has hit a chord with our gamers all around the country, is that literally it is a fun game to play. And what's funny about that?
That's all that matters, really.
So I have to tell you, we have 2 guys in a beat-up van that are traveling from store to store to actually go to the game stores and play this. And so they just made a circuit through Texas, and now they're up in Nashville tonight, and then they'll be in Indianapolis.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And these guys, and
you are filming that, right?
Yeah. Well, they have their own show.
Okay,
good.
It
it happens to be, I think it's Mr. Technology and his nephew.
Okay.
And there's a lot of funny.
Check it out.
Yeah, there's a lot of funny shows because it's my brother and my nephew.
Okay.
And my nephew's like 6'5", but my brother still treats him like he's 6. So they had one of their shows. They were standing in line at Thomas the Tank Engine. And you see, they're panning across, and you see Ryan above all the other kids just standing there, giant form. But, this has really helped with our groundswell, too, to show people that, look, we're willing to come to your place and actually, play the game.
Well, I think that's it, isn't it? I mean, so, and things like this, we at Wingman's Hangar, we want to support you. You and I have been friends for, long time.
Yeah.
I think, didn't you kick me out of your apartment once in Risk? I got kicked out. We should tell that story. So we were playing Risk. Todd goes to the bathroom. I go get a soda out of the fridge, and we're playing with Chris Roberts and Phil Miller. And Phil Miller moved some of my armies. Now, you and I were landlocked between Kamchatka and Alaska, and you got mad at me because armies were missing, and I didn't know anything about it.
Yes,
so we had this big blow-up, dust-up fight, of course, because it's a gamer thing. And then Phil Miller told us 7 years later that he took those armies.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, we were sitting at dinner, I think, in England.
Yes.
And he was laughing and saying, "What?" We said, "You guys never realized I was the one that
took the armies." And it was thanks, Phil. Anyway, we wish you luck with your Kickstarter. We'll be following along. Michael put the thing up there again, and Todd Porter, NecroVirus, and Boardcraft, right?
Boardcraft Fantasy Dungeon Series.
All right, cool. Looks great.